Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hyperspace on Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Solaris Blue Raven. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening, and a special thank you to webmaster and producer Keith Rowland. And my special guest this evening is Dr. G. Patrick Flanagan. Born a child protege in electronics, Patrick Flanagan could read before he could talk. When he was 8 years old, he had a series of reoccurring nightmares that would only go away when he spent all his time reading and learning. In 1952, he became a general class ham radio operator, WOPXD, in North Dakota, and designed and hand-built all of his radio equipment. At 13, he invented the Neurophone, a device that bypasses the 8th cranial hearing nerve and transmits sound into long-term memory centers of the brain through a dormant amphibian reptilian hearing organ, which was previously thought to be an organ of balance, the saccule. The saccule has since been shown to be an ultrasonic hearing organ that detects ultrasonic sound only if the sound is transmitted through the tissues and bones of the body. In 1962, Life magazine picked Flanagan as one of the top 10 most promising upcoming scientists in the world. Soon after, he was awarded the Gold Plate Award by the American Academy of Achievement, along with Dr. Edward Teller, Nobel winner Murray Gel-Mann, and a host of other luminaries. He met and became close friends with Admiral Rayborn, the creator of the Polaris Submarine and then director of the CIA, later transferring to NSA. His website is PsiSciences.com, and that's PHI Sciences.com, and it is such an honor. And please welcome Patrick to the show this evening. Hello there.
Hi there.
Hi, it's a pleasure to have you, Dr. Flanagan.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And I'm telling you, it's quite the honor. I have so much respect for you and what you've accomplished through your years, and I just want to thank you on behalf of so many others, I'm sure. So, so how have you been?
Oh, I'm great. I've been great. Thank you.
Excellent. What have you been working on?
Oh, well, I'm creating a new Neurophone. You know, I invented the Neurophone in 57 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we're creating the most awesome Neurophone. We call it the NEO, NEO, which means Neural Efficiency Optimizer. And you know, since I invented it when I was 13 years old, we've learned so much about it over the years. I mean, it relieves stress, it balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain. It even increases blood flow to the brain, and it also makes you, over time, your brain waves resemble those of Tibetan monks who have meditated in caves for 30 years. It's really, and I invented it when I was 13, like I say, and when I was 17, I lectured at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, New York, and 600 doctors were there, and Dr. Steve Farian, who was their brain expert, tested me, and he had tested Swami Rama from the Himalayas. This was a monk who meditated 30 years in a cave and came down from the Himalayas, and they tested his brain waves and published the studies in neurological magazine, peer-reviewed journals. And so he said after my lecture, could I take a look at your brain, and see what it looks like? And he tested me, and he said, your brain, for some reason, is identical to that of Swami Rama. And he said, do you have any idea what that may be? And I went, well, just my Neurophone.
That's awesome. And also, this helps the deaf hear, correct?
It can. The problem is that in order to make deaf people hear with it, you need a much more powerful machine, and also then you get involved in as a medical device, and you need FDA approval and all that. And we have some people who are hard of hearing who hear really well with it, but we can't recommend it for deaf people, and don't like people, trying to buy one for their deaf friends, because it may not work because it needs to be more powerful than the one we're currently selling.
Right. And does this, how does this appear? Is it like a headset, or what exactly does this device look like?
It's a box. The new one is going to look kind of like Star Trek device, and it's got outputs, and you plug in these transducers, ultrasonic transducers, and they go on your forehead, and you turn it on, and it has several different modes. One mode is what we call Fibonacci noise, which is golden ratio harmonics, and the entire body's made up of gold. All the nerves and neural fibers and all the cells in the body are related to each other by basically the golden ratio. And the Neurophone, it's interesting, the brain is a cavity, and the back of the skull is like a parabolic dish, and any ultrasonic sound that enters into the skull is focused by the skull directly onto the third eye or the pineal gland. And the result is that just stimulating the brain with ultrasonic sound has a profound effect. If you Google just brain ultrasound, you'll get about a dozen papers that have been published recently about how the brain ultrasonic sound improves the functioning of the brain. And these are military and government sources. They're talking about putting a Neurophone-like device in the helmets of soldiers to make them sharper, and depending on what signal you use, you can help them to stay awake and not sleep, and stimulate their brain and make them more focused and more aware. And we're not claiming those things for our device, but if you look at brain and ultrasound, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm sure you're familiar with the dark side of the technology, not yours in general, but dark sides insofar as psychotronic warfare and, of course, the misrepresentation of some technology which could affect somebody's brainwaves in a negative. Now, my question to you is, I know that there are a lot of people who have been, quote-unquote, targeted out there who have suffered from electronic harassment, electromagnetic warfare. Is this the type of device that could actually help heal and repair and balance out the trauma that they've gone through?
Yes, it helps PTSD.
Excellent.
And the interesting thing about the Neurophone is that it balances the left and right hemispheres and allows the male and female sides of the brain to communicate. Whereas a lot of the electronic warfare devices target just one side of the brain and create an imbalance so that the hemispheres are disconnected and the male masculine side of the brain takes over, and they're able to make people more or less into robots. And the Neurophone would correct that.
Excellent. That's phenomenal. And when is your new Neurophone going to be out and available?
The new Neurophone should be out in April. In this coming April or May at the very latest.
Excellent. That's wonderful. That's such good news. Yeah, I know you're familiar with that dark technology. So, and what is your impression of the misuse of technology? Just out of curiosity, I mean, being so incredibly, well, I can't even begin to say what you are. I mean, you're a genius beyond words. So what is your perception of how some of the technology that's been out there has been converted and contorted into something negative?
Well, it was used on me. When I was a child, I was singled out by government psychiatrists when I was in the third grade, and they did things to me I can't talk about, and tried to make me into one of their weapons, I can say, and also to control me. And so I know a whole lot about it,
right?
And I didn't even remember about it until I was 67 years old, and something happened that enabled me to start remembering, because they created an alternate personality in you.
Right? Do they have screen memories as well? I'm sure.
Yeah, and I got all these I got it all back, and the one thing I had to do is learn to love them rather than hate them, because hate is what they live on. They love hate. They love anger, and but love is defeating to them. And the more we can go into a loving state and send love to these people. These dark entities cannot handle love, and but they can't fight it either. They love anger. The more angrier you get, and the more upset you get, they feed off of it.
Very true, indeed. And how did you disengage from the programming? Was it through your devices and your inventions?
Yes.
Excellent. Which one in particular?
Well, my Neurophone helped a lot, but actually, in this particular case, I was down in Mexico, and I smoked something very powerful dose from a shaman of something called dimethyltryptamine, and it happened to open up my brain so that I was able to actually remember and see what had been done. I'd always felt something was there. It's like a veil. I always said that I've got this veil, and I can see something fuzzy through it, but I can't quite make out what it is. And whatever it is, it's affecting me and having an effect on my life and everything. And that veil was rendered asunder and torn in this process, and that's when I remembered it all. And now I'm whole. I'm 70 years old now, and I feel whole for the first time in my life.
Well, you don't sound 70, so you're doing something right. And I was going to ask you a little bit about, I know you're very in tune with your past life memories, and of course there's a lot of that connection to Tesla. You were the incarnation of Tesla?
Well, when I was 8 years old, I told my mother my name wasn't Patrick, that my name was Nikola Tesla, and she said, "Who's that?" And when I was 8 years old, and I became a general class ham radio operator, and I built all of my own equipment. That's because of my memories, past life memories, and I built, when I'm 9 years old, I built 20 megahertz. That's 14 megahertz, 20 meter ham radio Tesla coil that put out 4-foot arcs from the top of the antenna when I turned on my ham radio, and it created such havoc in neighbors' homes and things that they forced me to shut it down or I'd go to jail.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So how did you receive this information? Was it through a lucid state of consciousness, or was it in dream time, or?
No, I had direct full memory when I was born of who I was. And
excellent.
Yeah. So it was direct memory, but what happened though is that a little bit of it got screwed up because I was a normal, precocious 2-year-old, babbling and talking, and in 1946, my mother went to an Army surplus store, and she got 4 pounds of mercury that they had collected in the store, and she thought that would be a great toy for the kids. And so she brought this mercury home and gave it to me and my brother. Fortunately, he was 4 years older than me, and it didn't affect him like me. But at 2 years old, I became full-on autistic. I stopped talking, never said another word till I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And so it changed the way my brain works, and probably, in this case, for the better, because my friends say that I'm a very mercurial person.
Interesting. So what exactly snapped you out of that when you finally started to talk? What was it that moved you into the next, or onto the next level of speaking?
I don't know. It's just somehow I was able to overcome it. And my brother says, yeah, he didn't talk for 4 years, but it's because he didn't have anything to say.
That's pretty interesting. Well, didn't they say Einstein didn't talk either when he was young?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's might be a sign of a genius mind right there. And, of course, I'm sure your IQ is off the charts.
Well, when I was 17, they tested it in high school, and they said that it was unmeasurable because it was 200 on the particular test that they use. I think it might be, I don't know, the Greenlee test or something. The maximum score was 200, and I was measuring 200. So they said they had no idea what my IQ actually was because the highest measurable one with the written test was 200.
That's awesome. Wow. And I'm so impressed with all the things you've invented at such a young age. Now, I know you said at the age of 11, you invented and sold to the Pentagon a missile detector. Can you elaborate on that one?
Yes. Actually, I was 12.
Okay.
My father was an oil scout for a Shell Oil Company, and we moved to Montana in North Dakota, and we moved every 4 months from the age of 5 till I was 12 years old. And the only thing that I could latch onto, because my home and my friends were changing, I didn't have any friends, and so I would go to the library and read in whatever town I was in, and by the time I was 14, I was reading 14,500 words a minute with 95% comprehension. I had what's called an eidetic memory, which means I remembered, it's not a photographic memory. I remembered eidetically everything that was said to me, everything that I saw, and everything that I heard. And that got me through things. And then when I'm 12, we move just toward the end of my 12th year. I was born in October. And so we moved to Houston, Texas, and I went into the, I guess, the 7th grade. And they said, we're having a science fair, all citywide science fair, all ages, through college. And if anyone has a science project, get it together and present it, in 4 months or whatever. And so I had this idea for detecting ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and atomic bomb
wow.
locations. So I did it. And I won the entire science fair, beating the college kids, everything. Awesome. And that was on a Sunday. And on Monday, the Pentagon called the school. I was in study hall, and the principal came on and said, "Will Patrick Flanagan come to my office immediately? The Pentagon is on the telephone."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty hardcore.
It is.
So what happened?
Well, so they took it away, and they made my father sign a piece of paper that basically said that they owned it, and if I were to talk to anyone but an official government representative, that they would arrest my father and put him to death by firing squad for treason, since he was responsible for me. And of course, it scared the crap out of my father and me. And so then I had their attention, and they watched me and made offers to me for most of my entire life.
Mm-hmm. And weren't you in a think tank with the Pentagon or something like that?
I was. When I was 17 years old, there was a think tank called HUYCK, H-U-Y-C-K, out of Stamford, Connecticut. And the head of the think tank was Dr. William O. Davis, who is former head of the Office of Scientific Research of the Pentagon. and they were interested in my Neurophone. And so in the summer, when I'm 17 years old, I drove my car from Houston, Texas, all the way to Stamford, Connecticut by myself, and I consulted for them. And that's when I got involved in quite a few different research projects. And then when I'm 19 years old, I went to work for the Office of Naval Research, ONR, out of China Lake, California, communicating with dolphins.
Oh, wow.
And we developed devices that could translate human speech into dolphin whistles, and then dolphin whistles back into human speech.
That's awesome.
And it was quite a research project, and I owned a third of the company called Listening Incorporated. And then in 1968, the partner in the company, the senior partner, Dr. Dwight Wayne Bateau, a professor of information theory at Tufts University and former professor of physics at Harvard, died mysteriously at the age of 50. He drowned in 3 feet of water in Hawaii. And the government shut our project down, and they put everything under secrecy for 75 years, and the secrecy order doesn't expire until 2025.
Wow. That's amazing. Were you ever threatened?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is I've been controlled. I was controlled. Without direct control, but direct, I mean, they didn't come to me, and I wish they'd come to me and said, if you do this, we're going to do that. But no, what they did is they made my life horrible and kept me from putting the Neurophone on the market, and because they thought that the Neurophone could be used as a mind control device.
Well, and then you and I both know that there's plenty of different technology out there that can certainly interface the mind and control it. So that's unfortunate. That's
yes.
And it's almost like a parallel of the Tesla too, Nikola Tesla's situation. Oh,
totally. I knew I was Nikola Tesla when I was 8 years old, and what they did to me was so horrendous that when I came in and told my mother I was Nikola Tesla, I said, don't tell anyone, because I was destroyed. I was basically murdered and destroyed when I was Tesla, so I had to be careful. And I developed along different lines using the technologies. Tesla, when I was Tesla, when I'd run my big Tesla coils, I had some, more than one deaf person, profoundly deaf, come in, and they could hear the arc gap of the Tesla coil in the middle of their heads. And,
wow.
And I remembered that, of course, this lifetime, and that's how I developed the Neurophone.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Well, that's the thing. We have so much technology that we could actually create so many different miracles. If some of these, first of all, the other patents that are classified, and the ones like you were talking about where you have 75-year secrecy, I mean, this is ridiculous. And then all of a sudden, it's just really bothersome when you think about all the beautiful technology and the beautiful technology that you've developed. I'd love to see it go fast forward.
Well, what happened is that Admiral Rayborn, when he became head of the National Security Agency, the CIA tried to give me a college scholarship when I was 17. And this is in 1962. And they said to me that we're going to give you, we're going to put you in any universities in the world. Doesn't matter what country it's in, if it's Russia or anything, doesn't matter. We will put you in there and we will give you $165,000 a year as an allowance that you can use for anything you want. And in 1962, $165,000 was like $1.6 million.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that was quite an offer. But when I was 17, I was consultant, and I was making more money than my father was.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I always wanted to be James Bond, and I thought, wow, I could. And what they said is that after you get all the degrees you want, we want you to work for the CIA for 5 years, and then you can go do what you want, and we'll let you go. And all my older, I only had 70-year-old friends because that's where my brain was. And so I talked to some of my scientist friends about the offer, and they said, no. They said, they'll never let you go. They're lying. And so I said to Admiral Rayborn, I said, look, Admiral, I really appreciate your offer, but I don't need your money. I said, I'm making more money than my father makes, and I'm happy. So I refused the offer, and then Red Rayborn said, okay, son, let's work on a favors program. He said, if anyone in government, I don't care who it is, if they're bothering you, he said, you call me, you call the CIA, leave a message for me, and I'll call you back within 24 hours. So I'm having this problem with the Neurophone being under secrecy. And so I called the CIA one night, and this voice of a man sounds like he's in the bottom of a barrel, and deep, he goes, hello, and I go, I want to leave a message for Red Rayborn. And the guy said, never heard of him. And I said, he was director of the CIA, like the third one. And he said, still never heard of him. And I said, he's now director of the NSA, still never heard of him. And I said, well, look, he told me that I could call this number and leave a message for him, and he would call me back within 24 hours. He said, okay. He said, now you're talking. He said, you can call this number and leave a message for anyone you want. We just can't guarantee you that they'll ever call you back. And I said, fair enough. And so I gave him my phone number message for Red Rayborn. Less than 24 hours later, he called me back and said, what can I do for you? And I said, my Neurophone patent is under secrecy, and I went out of secrecy. He said, done. And he said, you'll have it within 2 weeks. And he said, and now he said, you're going to owe me a favor, and no matter what that favor is, you have to do it. You understand that? And I said, yes. And he said, okay. So 2 weeks later, he got my patent out of secrecy. But what he didn't say is that even though it was out of secrecy, they would not let me put it on the market.
Oh, wow.
But, and then he asked me for a favor, and I did the favor for him. And then we did that a couple more times. And I was told that even after he died, that if I call the CIA and I say, I have a favors program that started with Red Rayborn, that they have a record of it. But I honestly, I don't want any more favors.
I don't blame you. Not at all. Well, it sounds like it's kind of hit or miss over there, isn't it, for the CIA?
Yeah, they're getting stirred up over there now. There are good guys and bad guys.
Right. Yeah, that's what I kind of
get. But,
Wow. Yeah. And so did you have a handler at that time?
I did. I had different handlers. Mm-hmm. But mainly, because I refused. Let's say I had handlers, and I didn't know they were handlers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and one of them was Andrea Puharich. And I don't know if you know who Andrea Puharich was, but he was a CIA psychiatrist who wrote a book called The Sacred Mushroom. And he was famous because he brought Uri Geller into the U.S.
Oh, right. Okay.
And he was assigned to control me, and if they couldn't control me, to kill me. And so I've had an interesting life, let's say.
It certainly sounds like that. Well, I think whenever anybody's very brilliant, they seem to want to control and manipulate without a doubt there. Can I ask you, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but were you ever implanted with any type of technological devices to control your brain?
I was implanted with non-technical devices, and I was given a drug and beaten with a rubber hose when I was a kid, and they created an alternate personality in me with some secret words that would put me in the alternate, and my conscious mind was not aware of those.
Mm-hmm. That's horrible. I swear. I'm so glad you moved through all that.
Yeah, I went through it, and that was when I did the dimethyltryptamine thing and remembered, and now I'm free and clear of all that, and I love them for it, and I have nothing against them. I wouldn't reveal any of their secrets for anything. I don't really know except what I did when they put me under the secret words, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I don't. In fact, if I wished them harm, it would be exactly what they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Psychological game. Yeah. I'm amazed about your recall from past lives. Now, obviously, Nikola Tesla seems like a prominent, very, very prominent. What actually do you remember? Do you remember, obviously, the technology, but do you remember other things on the timeline of Nikola Tesla? I know there was mention of the Philadelphia experiment.
Yes, I do. I also knew this guy who was the major player in the Philadelphia experiment. Wait a minute.
Not Al Bielek?
I'm having a hard time remembering his name right now. But
it's not, okay, I was going to say Al Bielek. That's not him, though, right?
Well, Al Bielek was involved. But at any rate, what happened is that Tesla wasn't a direct consultant on it, but they used some Tesla technology.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it was mostly a magnetic thing, where they were warping dimensions using out of cross-phase magnetic field, and they would warp dimensions, and the ship would turn into a liquid, and of course with magnetic fields that high, it alters the human brain permanently, and a magnetic intensity as high as the one they used will change a person so that they will never ever be able to function again. And now, I think it was Al Bielek who now Al Bielek contacted me and told me that I was on that I was one of the people on the ship that jumped off. And when I jumped off, I went through a wormhole and was reborn in my body in 1944. And he told me that he knew I was absolutely his friend because he had done the same thing and had been reborn, and in a different timeline. But he and I were about the same age. But at the time, it was so disturbing to me that I didn't want to talk to him. I refused to talk to him about it. And I wish I had, but I was, it was just too much for me to handle. The idea that I had done that too,
Right. When you're talking about the magnetic intensity, does that have something to do with the frequency modulation? In other words, were they using frequency to alter space-time and the illusion of the continuum? That would explain some of the anomalies. I may be off, but does that have a connection?
Well, a little bit, but they had these high-powered generators that were feeding magnetic coils that were at right angles to each other, and it created a phase-shifting magnetic field of higher intensity than anything that had ever been made before or since. And it created a gap in space-time, and then went right through the gap. They had no idea what they were doing and couldn't control it, and so.
And once that gap is,
it was a big mistake. Yeah.
Right. Well, it seems like it was, and I've heard a story that Tesla sabotaged that to some degree. He sabotaged the testing. Do you know anything about that?
No.
Okay, just curious about that because I guess maybe he didn't want it to succeed or something. I'm not quite certain on that one. Just curious. But so insofar as the gap in the space time goes, now was that ever sealed up, repaired?
I think it created a discontinuity and an anomaly that continues to this day.
Yeah.
And
that would make sense. How does that show itself?
There are different places on Earth that were affected by it because the Earth's magnetic field. There are discontinuities and time gaps in the Bermuda Triangle and a few other areas that I believe might have been that they were already like node points on the Earth. And I believe that it completely changed these things. Although there were disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle before the Philadelphia experiment, but I think this exacerbated things.
Right. Sounds like it would have. Yeah, that's very interesting. Do you do much research, or have you looked into the Hadron Collider or the CERN at all?
Yeah, I have.
What's your impression of that? They're supposed to be firing that up come March, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, they're playing with fire again. There was a point way back in the 40s where they set off a hydrogen bomb in the ionosphere, and the theory is that if it didn't burn the entire atmosphere of the Earth up and kill all of us, that they might be able to use it to control the ionosphere, like HAARP. And these guys, these idiots, went ahead and set it off anyway, and they could have killed everyone on Earth, totally destroyed the planet if it. And they had reason to believe that it might do that. It could be either way. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, little recklessness, but I guess they had some angels on their shoulder somewhere, huh?
Yeah, we've had some ET angels, and there are other angels, like Baba, Sati Sai Baba, and Shirdi Sai Baba way back, but there are angels in Tibet who, there are people who are literally thousands of years old who are still in the body, and then there are ETs. There are bad ETs and there are some good guys, and so we have a whole mix.
Right, we certainly do. I like the good guys for sure. Do you see us having some kind of a consciousness war here? I mean, what do you see on this timeline right now?
Well, what's going to happen is that at the end of this year and into 2016, there are several possible whole Earth life extinction events coming, in which all life on Earth could be absolutely extinct by several different processes, and these actually they're known, but not among. It's not chatter you see on the internet. And Nibiru is coming, but not the way Zacharias Sitchin said. But that's one. And then the other one is methane gas, in which 50 gigatons of methane gas is going up into the ionosphere, and it's 10 times as potent as CO2, and that is going up, and by the end of this year, unless right now we need, and that's one, and the other one I can't talk about, but I can tell you that we need ET help, because there is nothing that is going to save humankind right now. We've gone too far in egotistical dark control. We've gone too far, and people are too asleep watching TV and being programmed by the television, and they're so asleep that they're being run all over and controlled and aren't even aware of it.
Mm-hmm. I so agree with you on that. I get that same vibe, too, about the extinction, too. It's very concerning. Now, you mentioned something interesting about Nibiru. Do you see it as, now, the way I've always seen Nibiru, because nobody ever can, quote-unquote, detect it. Now, the way I see it is that it exists in an alternate dimension, maybe a parallel dimension, and that it's not visible because it's in an alternate space, time, and the illusion of. What exactly do you get from Nibiru?
Well, I don't really get that, but what I get is that it's intelligently controlled, and it's behind Saturn right now, being hidden by Saturn. I have nothing to go on other than just my gut feeling on it, but it is real, and there are people who are tracking it. And it is it's definitely gonna, supposedly by December of this year, everyone will know about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right around the corner too. Well, what about the moon? I know that one supposedly is under intelligent control as well. Do you see the moon as maybe breaking orbit at some point?
I think the moon is an artificial construct used to control human beings.
Yeah, I kind of get that. Yeah, for sure.
And it was towed here a long time ago. And it's hollow inside, and there are definitely bases on the moon, and there are people. We have a space command, United States Space Command, that's able to transport themselves to the moon, to Mars, to different things like that. And there's enough data out there that if you dig deep enough, that's available on the internet. Mm-hmm. And Lear, was it John Lear? Mm-hmm. He's 94 years old. And he just spoke at a conference here in Sedona, and this guy is as sharp as a tack and was revealing all of that stuff. And, it's available, and I would imagine that you can go on YouTube and look up Lear.
Mm-hmm, right, yeah, he's been on my show before, actually, John. I don't know if he's that old. I thought he was a lot younger than that, but yeah. Yeah,
good for you.
Yeah, I'd always get the good guys on my show. That's why you're... Yeah. But yeah, that's really fascinating. Now, when you mentioned we need ET help, is there any specific species that comes to mind insofar as maybe trying to connect in with that?
Most of the ETs that are out there are telling people they're going to help aren't.
Mm-hmm, right.
And there are the ETs that have made deals with our governments because they want our genetic material in order to reproduce and, different things like that.
Right.
But the ETs that are going to help, possibly, they aren't just talking to people and they aren't pulling them up on their ship. But I believe that there are ETs that are going to have the possibility of saving us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes sense here. So what do you think about transhumanism? Coming from your background of inventions and technology, and seems to me like that's one of the agendas.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really bad thing. Now you're talking about, when the machines take control and kill all the humans and take the humans they want and take away their souls and put them into a machine that has all these powers that are controlled by a single hive entity, and I think it's very bad.
Mm-hmm. I tend to agree with you on that one for sure. Yeah, and coming from your background, that's why I like your Neurophone, because your Neurophone actually, because it's if it can help and offset some of the damaging effects of the misuse of technology, I think that's really a gift to all beings on this world.
Well, my Neurophone was given to me by ET sources when I was 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely was given to me, and I know where it came from. And the Neurophone is, I believe, we need a certain amount of humans to wake up, and the Neurophone will wake people up. It has the possibility of waking them up, and if everyone that uses it, we know that everyone that uses the Neurophone after about 7 weeks of using it, that their brainwaves become like a Tibetan monk who has meditated for 30 or 40 years, and that can't be all bad. There's I strongly love Maharishi, and was started meditating using Maharishi method in 1973, and the 1% effect they were talking about, I think it's 0.1% effect or whatever. But when a group of meditators get together and meditate, crime rates do go down, and I think that we don't have time for people to learn how to be Tibetan meditators, and the Neurophone can, thousands and thousands of children using the Neurophone will end up being little Tibetan monks who, and all these children coming in are indigo children, and the Neurophone can speed them along so that if thousands of people are using the Neurophone, I think it can have a profound effect on the planet.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you, and especially if it can help with the PTSD that so many suffer from. That's a blessing right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it has helped me.
Mm-hmm.
There's PTSD, and then there's putting alternate personalities. Those are two different things. But my mother, God bless her, was abused when she was a child, and she abused me so badly that from the time I was a baby until I was 17 years old, that I am clinically suffering from, have that designation of PTSD from my mother. And actually, again, I feel that these things were necessary for my spiritual development. And my mother and I had a Tibetan monk tell me that my mother and I were eternal enemies, and that I finally allowed myself to be born as her baby, to resolve this eternal enemy thing that we had together, and was willing to give up my life in order to solve this with her. And believe me, it was tough.
Oh, I can imagine. So that's like enemy patterning. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, for sure. And I'm a firm believer in reincarnation, without a doubt, and past life recall. So I don't discount any of that in any form of design. I think it's quite more than a science, actually, when people start tapping into their cellular memory and seeing things. And I do believe that sometimes people reincarnate to resolve issues from other timelines or past, without a doubt. That's yeah.
I think we all do. You know, every human being on this earth is here for a purpose, and every single one, I don't care where they live or who they are or how low their circumstances, each one of them is a bright, shining star who has come in to resolve things. And, I mean, all the humans on this earth, every single one of them is so important. But the way the dark governments and forces use them in such horrific ways that things have got to change. And Sai Baba says humanity will have to be brought to its knees in order to ask God for help.
Yep.
And if enough people do drop to their knees and beg for help, then human consciousness can eliminate these, or can eliminate some of the effects of the cataclysms and extinction events that are on the way.
Right. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Well, I see it as a disconnect from what I call source, whatever you want to call the heavenly realms and the full light universe. But yeah, totally, I see people are disconnected from that. But I also get, after my own research and investigations and my experiences, that a lot of people have just been mind controlled. I mean, since they've been born, they've been lied to. And of course, there's technological warfare. So the technological array systems is my biggest concern. I think that's the biggest beast that's controlling the masses.
Well, this is a prison planet. We are all trapped here. We are all prisoners. We are controlled by ETs and have been for ages and ages and ages. And all the public school system, the public school system, and TV, everything is designed for one purpose, to keep us here. And even when we die and reincarnate, they capture our souls and we reincarnate again back in prison. And but we can change that. We can get out of it, and only at this time is it possible. In all the history that we know of, in the last 23,000 year cycle, this is the first and the only one in which we have the ability to change and to get out of it and to turn it around.
Right, and that's done through higher consciousness, or what is the avenue? I would suspect higher consciousness and surrendering to the full light universe.
Yeah, well, part of it is to become aware that everything we see is a holographic illusion, and if enough people see that, you can break the hologram, and we're right here. And that's where I feel the Neurophone. I was given this Neurophone 57 years ago for a purpose, and it has nothing but positive effects. If it could be used as a weapon, I would be so devastated by it, I wouldn't even be here. Thank God it can't be.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And how long do you have to work with the Neurophone? Now, how many minutes? Is it minutes or hours? How long do you actually have sessions with it?
You should use it. A person should use it at a minimum an hour a day, every single day. And after about 7 weeks, there was a government psychiatrist who worked with stealth bomber pilots, and she was a 30-year meditator, and she got a neurophone, and she contacted us and said that after 30 years of meditation, the neurophone put her in a whole new level, and her job was to de-stress stealth bomber pilots so they could go back out on the job, and a lot of them were so freaked out by the process that they couldn't go back out for 2 weeks. And so she said she tried the neurophone on some of them, and after about a few weeks of using it, that they had this brain pattern of a deep meditator, and were de-stressing. And so she asked me if I could make a fake neurophone that sounded the same, and I can. It's a neurophone without the ultrasonic carrier, and I send it to her, and she was supposed to send us research notes, and then we were going to publish it in a neurological journal. And after about 6 months, she disappeared off the face of the earth with the neurophones, and literally completely disappeared. And then about 2 years later, the University of Arizona said they've discovered the new super pilot program, which is ultrasonic stimulation of the brain to make a better pilot. And of course, I knew what happened to my neurophones.
Right. Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, so use an ultrasonic carrier in the neurophone. Yes,
in fact, that's how it works. It's about 40 kilohertz. That's double the highest frequency that a human being can hear if you have perfect hearing, and that only happens in babies. But if you take the same transducers and you put them on your head and you feed audio, just sound in there without the carrier, it sounds the same way as the neurophone, but it doesn't do anything beneficial for the brain. And that's how we we had a neurophone with the carrier and a neurophone without it, and that's what she used as the placebo. And there are people that actually have ripped off the neurophone, and they have them out there, and these things have the transducers but no ultrasonic carrier, and they're worthless.
Oh, that's terrible. So they basically ripped off your design and revamped it their way?
Oh, yeah.
That's horrible. That's terrible. I did hear that you kind of had a few patents I don't know if they ripped off your patents, but people have kind of taken a lot from you here and there, haven't they?
Yes, but what happened is that I don't patent anything anymore because patents are just a way for people to rip off your knowledge. And in order to protect your patent, you have to have a huge war chest, and you have to go after them, and all they do is switch jurisdictions, and it's a game, and it's how the government agencies, and if they think it's bad enough, they put your patent under secrecy and steal it from you directly. And so I don't patent anything anymore. I figure, the funny thing is, just like on the neurophone, they know that they can play audio without the carrier, so they go, oh, well, that's how his neurophone works. And they make the big mistake. They make something that doesn't work because there are engineers that think they know better, and no one has actually exactly duplicated any of my patents because they all think, because I didn't tell in the patent the details as to why I'm doing something. So they end up changing it, thinking it's a better engineering practice, and in actuality, it is not.
Exactly. And Patrick, we're going to take a 3-minute break right now. Everybody, please stay tuned. We'll be right back on Hyperspace. Welcome back, everybody, to Hyperspace on Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Polaris Blue Raven, and I'm here with my very, very special guest, Dr. G. Patrick Flanagan. And Patrick, you with me?
I am.
Excellent. And what a pleasure. I swear it's such an honor to have you on tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and your information. It's phenomenal. So thank you. Yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just really nice. You know, when I'm looking at all this, all your devices and all the technology that you've been creating, and I'm wondering, I'm sure you're familiar with artificial telepathy, synthetic telepathy, and I'm curious insofar as, obviously I don't think that's healthy, but what is your impression of that technology?
I think it is unhealthy because, let's put it this way. We, human beings, when we were in our natural state, were awesome. Mm-hmm. And what happened is that we have been genetically re-engineered to remove our natural telepathic abilities. Human beings in our natural, unchanged genetic state are awesome. I mean, we have abilities like, how animals communicate by telepathy. Mm-hmm. And absolutely, and they communicate by intention. I like to use a demonstration is that you can look at a spider on your wall all you want, and you can think, should I smash it? Should I kill it? What should I do? And the spider just sits there. But the minute you go, I'm gonna kill it. The minute you have the intention to kill it, it runs. Mm-hmm. Because it picks up intention. And, a hunter can be out looking through a rifle scope at a deer, and the deer will just stand there all day long, and he can go, should I shoot it, in the head, in the heart, in the flank? How should I kill it? And things like that. And then when the hunter decides that he's going to pull the trigger, it runs. And so we have that natural ability, many of us right now, is that someone can stare at you and stalk you all day long with just observing you. But the minute they make a bad intention, the hairs on your neck stand up, and some of us are sensitive to that. But if you take a human being in our unaltered genetic form, and none of us exist like that, we were awesome. Mm-hmm. I mean, we could travel out of our body and go to other universes, and we could travel in groups. We could all lay down on the forest floor and hold hands at night, and one of us would act as a watcher. And the watcher, while the rest of the tribe was holding hands and laying down and traveling the universe together, the watcher would look for predatory animals. And let's say a lion would be coming along. The watcher had the ability to cloud the mind of the lion, so he was not aware of the rest of the tribe. That was our natural state, and none of us have that anymore. We've been genetically altered to the point where we are enslavable and where we have lost natural telepathic abilities. And so artificial telepathy can be used to control people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. I can get into that with you off air, but yeah, absolutely. And that's why I was curious, because I suspect it does damage. And of course, I am one who also resonates with the true light body, the original spiritual design work, which doesn't need anybody interfering with it on a technological scale. And I think that's what it is. It seems like it's so tempting for these, whether they militarize it or weaponize things. They want to weaponize the spiritual body. They want to weaponize the paranormal. And I just don't get it. Patrick, I'm just like, why can't they just let it be?
Mm-hmm.
It's just so frustrating.
Yeah, well, they can't let it be because they're predators.
Yep, there you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Different species, you think? Or just, what do you think separates people from, like, the predators versus the light beings, or the light-conscious beings?
Well, there are predators and there are predators. There are predators looking for a meal, and that's nature, okay? But there are predators, extraterrestrial predators, who genetically engineered the human race so that we've lost our supernatural abilities so they can control us. And they do so through the church, through the, all the churches, through religion, and through the governments, and they're all, we could say satanic in nature, because some of them actually think that it is satanic, but that's just the way that they're controlled. They think that they're going to get power.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they aren't,
No, it seems to me like it's too coarse of an energy to really have any power to it. And hostility just breeds more hostility, as you were kind of talking about earlier. I mean, you have to send them love, and I have a hard time with that too. Sending these evil people, compassion. It's rough to do that sometimes, for sure. But do you see a way to reverse, like, say somebody gets super soldiered, say they get interfaced with so much artificial intelligence that they want to revamp and let go of that technology? Are they able to do that and repair themselves without damage, do you think?
No.
Okay, that's not good.
Well, I'm saying that all the technologies to make super soldiers are involve mind control, right, and putting chips inside the human brain and all that, and cameras in the eyes, and increasing the power of the brain without developing any kind of spiritual love is something that will backfire, and ultimately it's just another satanic tool. And because we need the ability to, we need the spiritual side of it, and like I say, human beings have been so altered that and so programmed that it's almost a lost cause. Except that it isn't, because there is a time right now where those forces are weakening, and where we do have the ability to wake up.
Right. And of course, I think it's that frequency war, and the fact that you are connected to all different types of frequencies, that your technology is based on frequency in some form or another, really does facilitate a higher dimensional space of consciousness, which in my opinion can heal the body. I do believe that even regardless of what they've tried to do to redefine the body, technologically speaking, I know that spiritually speaking, we can overcome that. But I agree with you. It has to take, we have to really take a leap and do a lot of surrendering and letting go of the lower, higher ego, whatever you want to call it. But I would like to ask you about the Tesla coils you developed now. I've had contact with certain people that have used Tesla coils for healing. And what is your impression of that?
I'm sorry, my impression of which technology?
Well, the Tesla coils, they actually, there's one thing called, I don't know if you're familiar with the quantum pulse machine. They've actually...
Okay. Oh, yeah, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, Mike Emery and I, he brought forth the fact that xenon, it's interesting, when medically, when they cool a person down to where they're technically dead, and they remove their heart from the body and operate on the heart, people are below the freezing level. And then when they decide to reanimate the person's body, they have to use xenon gas along with oxygen. And if the xenon gas isn't there, the person remains dead. And so xenon gas has this amazing healing power without which they could not reanimate the body. And so xenon gas, if you create a xenon gas light and you bathe the human body in it, it has a very powerful healing effect. And I've been so busy, but I need to get someone to blow like a neon sign person to blow a xenon gas bulb for me, and then it has to be stimulated with a Tesla coil. And not a low frequency high voltage neon sign transformer. It won't work. It's got to be a Tesla coil. And you stimulate that xenon gas tube, it does for the living body what reanimation does for a dead person. It has the possibility of healing everything in the body and reversing the aging process. And that's probably, something I need to do and need to do soon.
Yes.
One of the many things that I've got to. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Well, I know I've used what they call a quantum pulse machine, and I believe it does have the xenon gas. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are a few other different gases in there. I want to say argon. Not sure.
Yeah, all those gases, like argon, xenon, and neon, all of those so-called inert gases, when ionized, put out interesting healing energies. But if the xenon gas isn't stimulated correctly, even with the Tesla coil, it won't put out the healing light.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense right there. So what's the difference, I guess, with oxygen chambers? I've never been in one, but I suspect that would be really good for rejuvenation as well.
Well, it's interesting because we have a guy in Dr. Hutton in Sedona, and I'm taking a drink of water.
That's okay. That's great.
Anyway, Dr. Hutton was treating people in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber and getting somewhat good results. And he told me about it, and I said, Dr. Hutton, here's the deal. I said, my product, Mega Hydrate, is the world's most powerful antioxidant. But when you hear antioxidant, you think that it's anti-oxygen. But what it does is it's actually an oxygen-free radical scavenger, the most potent in the universe. And so I said, what you do is you give them some of my Mega Hydrate capsules before they go, 2 hours before they go in the machine. And what happens is that their body is flooded with free radical scavengers, so that when they breathe the hyperbaric oxygen, it's not creating reactive oxygen species that harm the cells and kill the DNA and all this stuff. It's neutralizing those so that the oxygen can actually do the work it's supposed to do. So anyone breathing oxygen, and exercising on oxygen and all these things needs to take Mega Hydrate, which is this antioxidant I discovered and have published in numerous peer-review journals. They need to take that before they do any kind of exercise, especially under oxygen or hyperbaric oxygen.
Right, and is that your website? That's the www.wetwater.net?
No.
Oh, okay.
The best one is www.phisciences.com.
Okay, great. Yeah, I have that one too. Okay, excellent.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that water. So what sparked your interest in developing that? How'd you come across that?
Well, when I was a child and I was given mercury, and then when I was 8 years old, they gave us live polio vaccine. And the idea was that the young children would walk around with mild cases of polio, and we'd infect our parents and other children and people, everyone we came into contact with, and everyone would build immunity to polio. But what happened is that because I had mercury poisoning when I was 2, and I was autistic, it lowered my immune system so that when they gave me the live polio vaccine, I came down with a full case of polio, and they put me in leg braces and crutches and told me I would never walk again without leg braces and crutches. And what happened is that I forced myself to walk through the most excruciating pain anyone could ever dream of, by forcing myself to walk my legs without crutches and without leg braces. And I forced my body to recover from the polio, and then I became a world-class athlete after that, but it did stunt my growth. I'm supposed to be 6 feet tall, and I'm 5 feet 2 inches tall, but I've got this gigantic 4-inch chest, of a 6-foot man. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, just to cover that, so what happened is that when I was younger, I did a lot of fasting, and I drank a lot of fresh juices. And everyone talks about the difference between live food and dead food. And they said it was enzymes. But the problem is I took a huge amount of enzymes, and it didn't help me at all. And then I'm going, wow, enzymes aren't helping. What's wrong with me? And what is it about live food? Because if I made fresh carrot juice and I drank it immediately, it gave me such a lift and felt so good. But if I put the carrot juice in the refrigerator for half an hour and consumed it, it still was tasty, but it didn't give me that lift, that quickening of energy that you get from the fresh raw juice. And I wanted to know what that was. And what I discovered is that it was hydrogen, what we call negative ionized hydrogen, that is in the fresh juice of every living thing, meaning the blood of humans, the lifeblood of plants and vegetables and fruit. And what happens is that if you pick fruit off a tree and you eat it right away, you get that quickening. But if you pick the fruit off the tree and you put it in a basket and it takes weeks to get to the market, it no longer, sure, it's tasty and it's got some enzymes, but it doesn't give you the quickening that you get from, really fresh food. Mm-hmm. And so what I discovered in 1984 is I discovered that there was a atom in fresh raw juices called negative ionized hydrogen. And what it is that hydrogen normally has a single tightly bound electron, but negative ionized hydrogen has an extra electron that is not tightly bound, and it has an energy potential of about 0.85 volts negative. And it turns out that the human body operates on a potential of 1 volt. So if you take oxygen and you take negative ionized hydrogen and they react with each other, it releases about 1 electron volt of energy. And so I discovered this, and what happened is that I was able to create these ions in the water, and I would make 50-gallon buckets of super water, and I'd send them I'd do it in the evening, and the next morning I'd send it by FedEx to friends of mine, and then they would drink as much of the water as they could, and they were getting incredible results from it. They were getting a high from it. They were getting energy, and all kinds of healings were occurring. And I'm going, I've got to figure out a way to get these ions to people in another form. And what happened is I developed the ability to store these ions in a special silica molecule that I developed that is actually found in nature. There are 242 types of silica structures. I discovered the 243rd type. And so I was able to store the negative hydrogen ions in the structure in a powder form. And then when you take it internally, when it gets in water, it releases all these hydrogen ions into the body, and it acts just like drinking fresh, raw juice. And so I put out some stuff on it and was selling it, and then the Harvard medical newsletter came out and said Flanagan was a fraud. It's impossible for negative ionized hydrogen to last more than 12 microseconds in water, and if it lasted longer than that, we would all self-combust and all this stuff. And so I set up a laboratory in Watsonville, California, and we had a nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometer, and we wrote about a dozen papers published in highly respected peer-reviewed scientific journals, and we proved that negative ionized hydrogen could last in water for at least 12 hours under full potency. And we published that, and suddenly the Harvard medical newsletter, all these detractors shut up, and I've never had another detractor on it since. And so we now sell this product. It's called Mega Hydrate, and we sell it all over the world. And there are people getting personal miracles from it, and especially in today's world when we've got Fukushima ionizing radiation and all these other things killing us. This one product alone can help you repair damaged DNA from radiation, and we get damaged DNA all the time because the DNA molecules are attached to. The ladder is actually made out of negative ionized hydrogen, and so the body has DNA repair capabilities, and what happens is that if your DNA gets damaged and you have enough of these negative ionized hydrogen ions in your body can actually repair broken DNA. But if your body is full of reactive oxygen species, you can't repair your DNA, and it accelerates the aging process. And we even have studies in our published studies where we were able to keep cells alive in a petri dish. This is not in vivo, but in vitro. But we're able to extend the life of cells up to 4 times their normal lifespan in our published paper simply from these ions. And, of course, then people said, well, you can't prove that it works in vivo. And I'm going, well, I think you can, but we haven't done that study. It's going to cost a lot more money. But my lab in Watsonville cost $2 million a year to run it, and I ran it for 2 years before I ran out of money. But we did get these papers published.
It's fascinating. And, of course, the Mega Hydrate capsules are available on your website still, right?
Oh, they are, yeah.
Excellent. Cool. I'm going to have to pick some up. I'm excited. Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. So you don't have your lab anymore?
No, I don't have that anymore. I couldn't have. What happened is, I got into a legal battle over someone trying to steal my product, and my income went down, and I couldn't afford to spend $2 million a year on the lab, so we had to break it down.
Yeah, that's quite that's a bit of money right there. $2 million, unless you have 2 million donations. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, for sure. Are you familiar with the photon sound beam at all, and the healing properties associated with that?
Just tell me. I don't know what photon sound beam means. Maybe you can describe it.
Well, it's like a laser, from what I understand, with a photon transmission of some kind that works with light, with photon light, that supposedly is designed to
time reversed laser.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm familiar with it, and that works.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that? Because I'd like to know more about it. I was just curious.
No. Well, if you take an electromagnetic beam and you beam it to a mirror where it reflects back directly along the beam out of phase with the original. The energies cancel each other out in the transverse wave electromagnetic spectrum, and it turns into what you would call a longitudinal wave, which is how sound is transmitted. Sound is transmitted not transversely like ordinary Hertzian radio waves. Now, Nikola Tesla, the Tesla coil, under certain circumstances, produces longitudinal time-reversed waves, which are compression and rarefaction like sound waves, but in the radio wave beam. So if you go up to light waves, and you do the same with light waves, you're creating a longitudinal light wave beam. Mm-hmm. And so that's what that is. Okay. And it is effective.
Yeah, I remember I had a session on Maui, and she used that on me, and I thought it was very interesting. It seems like it repairs DNA. I could be wrong, or it does something at the cellular level.
Well, I don't know how effective it is, but it's a good idea. Mm-hmm. I think there are better ways of doing it, and not only that, but the body responds. I mean, certain colors and frequencies of light. I'm very deep into lasers. Mm-hmm. And I had a laser engineer working for me for about 8 years, and all this guy did was make lasers for me. That was his entire job, basically. And then he designed one of my neurophones for me.
Cool.
But basically, different frequencies of light can have profound effects on the body, even if they're not longitudinal. Mm-hmm. And but let's go back to the longitudinal waves. If you take the body responds very well to 40 kilohertz, and you know Tesla worked in this frequency range, and he didn't go I think any higher than 100 kilohertz, but the way the Tesla coil was able to transmit power through the Earth was because it was not a transverse wave like you get off of radio antennas. Maxwell's equations, what happened is that Maxwell's equations predicted longitudinal waves, but all the scientists came along and threw them away and said, we don't have use for longitudinal waves. We want the waves of power, which is the transverse waves, which is otherwise you could take a radio station and you could transmit from one radio station enough power to power all the homes around it for, a mile or two. Mm-hmm. And so Tesla, the only reason Tesla was able to transmit power is because he converted into longitudinal waves, and he was very clear about that. And but then people just like my patents and ideas, people come along and they look at the Tesla thing and they said, well, I don't know why he did that. They throw that part away because they know how transverse wave Hertzian Maxwell equations work for the best kind of antenna, and they end up not actually duplicating Tesla's work.
Mm-hmm. Right, poor man's version of the technology itself, it sounds like. Well, that's a disservice right there, isn't it?
It's actually a stupid engineer's version of Tesla's work because they didn't understand what Tesla was doing. And, Tesla, again, didn't put all his information in his patents.
Thank goodness.
He cut a lot of it out because he knew that he had enough experience finally of people stealing from him and trying to destroy him that he stopped, that a lot of his real math. Now, Steinmetz, Charles Proteus Steinmetz was this crippled up dwarf who had the greatest mind in history besides Nikola Tesla. And Steinmetz was Tesla's best friend. And Steinmetz actually, when Tesla developed the AC power system, And when you're transmitting it through the grids, those grids have to be tuned because there are waveforms that will reflect back from the end of a grid and multiply in power and destroy everything along its way. And Steinmetz is the guy who developed the mathematical equations that enabled this power transmission system of Tesla's to actually work. And he was awesome. And if you look up Charles Proteus Steinmetz, Steinmetz, if you look him up, I mean, he was Tesla's best friend. And anyway, Steinmetz published there's, by the way, there is electricity, and then there is something called dielectricity, and the dielectric field. And Steinmetz published about that. And he actually has a chapter in one of his best books on dielectricity.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating right there. So when Tesla was actually tapping into quote unquote free energy, so you're saying he works on the grid of the planet? Is that how it works?
That's part of it. But really, the planet, nature uses dielectric fields and longitudinal waves. Nature does not use transverse electromagnetic fields. You know, when radio antennas are designed, they're designed to suppress the longitudinal dielectric field and to amplify the transverse wave field. And so all that, if you took all the radio stations and all the microwave transmitters in the world and you changed the antennas to transmit dielectric fields, longitudinal fields, then you would solve the problem of free energy. None of the electromagnetic waves, none of the Wi-Fis would hurt people. They actually help people and help heal the body. We could change the whole world overnight, but then, of course, the dark forces don't want that.
Oh, that's horrible. You just, right there, you solved it. That's it. So we have to push for that. I mean, honestly, people are getting completely, their health is going downhill with all of this manufactured, dirty technology, dirty electricity, whatever you want to call it. But that's what it is. That's what it is. You just change it.
Yep. Just bring out the longitudinal waves are not harmful for the body. And you could make all the Wi-Fi and you could make it all longitudinal waveforms. You'd have to completely redesign all the equipment. Your computer could transmit healing waves into the body.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. That's we have to change this. That's all there is to it. So what, and you might have covered this already, but I want to get more clarity with the longitudinal waves. How does that created?
Well, okay. Transverse waves transmit the electric field and the magnetic field are at 90 degrees to each other. And the longitudinal wave is a compression rarefaction wave in which the magnetic field and the electric waves are transmitted by compression rarefaction like sound waves. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to wrap your head around, but that's the best way I can describe it.
I appreciate that. Let me ask you real quick, this data, the way you're interpolating information, is this because of your past lifetime? How did you acquire all this? Was it from your own personal research on the timeline, or where did it all come from?
I came in with it.
You came in with it. What a blessing you are. My goodness. You're phenomenal. You really are. It's just like, oh my gosh. It's incredible. Do you have a biography out?
Do I what?
Do you have a book out, a biography at all?
No.
No?
And in fact, I had a famous movie producer who had lung cancer, and I helped him heal his lung cancer, and he was writing my biography and going to make it into a movie. And what happened is that he had a lump the size of a walnut in his lung, in his right lung, and he was taking my product, Megahydrate, and by some miracle the cancer completely disappeared and was no longer showing up on the X-ray. And then his wife said, "Well, just to make sure it's gone, I want you to go through chemotherapy and to make sure it really is gone." And I begged him. I said, "No, please don't do chemotherapy. It'll lower your immunity and it could kill you." And he said, "Well," he said, "I have to keep my wife happy." And he did chemotherapy, and he died from the first treatment.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah,
I've heard nothing but bad things about chemotherapy from so many different assessments, for sure. But the Megahydrate, though, that's fascinating.
Yeah, but I'm not claiming Megahydrate is a cancer cure in any way.
No, I understand. But still, nonetheless, it sounds like it's something that's beneficial to some degree. So that's...
Well, let's put it this way. If your body needs healing, and you give... In fact, there's nothing in medicine that heals the body. What happens is that you can fix it so that the body can heal itself. And often the body is deficient in certain nutrients and minerals that if it just had those, the body could boost its immune system and heal itself. So if you provide those to the body naturally, the body heals itself. No drugs, no pharmaceuticals can heal the body. They can, in certain cases, slow down the rate of dying, but often they have side effects that increase the rate of dying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really harsh on the system. Well, it's all about money usually with the pharmaceuticals, as many people know. But I agree. We do have, now maybe you can't elaborate on this, but I do believe we have cures for cancer and the illusion of cancer and disease. And I mean, naturally, we have all this technology that probably has not been revealed. What's your impression of that one?
Yeah, there are plenty of technologies, and every single one of them, if you go back to the, let's see, way back before pharmaceuticals, we had electronic medicine. And in hospitals, they had these machines, Lakowski multi-wave oscillators, they were called. And every hospital in the United States had one, and they were healing all kinds of diseases with it. And then they came out with the pharmaceuticals, and suddenly and also they had an FDA, and they outlawed all the electronic healing machines, the Lakowski multi-wave oscillator and the dielectric thermal machines, and threw them all away, and the world has been going downhill ever since.
Right, that certainly seems that way, without a doubt. Yeah, I like the radionics. I've used radionics before. I've worked with the Wright a little bit, and I feel like they're very good.
They are.
Yeah, and of course they just keep cracking down on people for some reason. I guess they just want everybody sick. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, George Hieronymus was a good friend of mine. He's like one of the first inventors of radionics. And the Hieronymus machine had the capability of healing all kinds of things. And they went after him with a vengeance. And not all radionics works. There are a lot of radionic machines that don't work.
I agree. Yeah, what's the key to making a radionics machine work, would you say?
Well, you have to understand these energies and how they're transmitted and controlled, and some of them are absolutely ridiculous. I don't want to, say anything bad about some of the machines on the market, so I avoid that. It'll just make a lot of people upset.
Yeah, I understand. So you have over 300 inventions, right?
I do.
My goodness.
Now,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have 300 patents. I stopped patenting, and but I do have 300 inventions, but I don't have time to put them all out on the market, and so I had to select certain ones, like the Neurophone and like the Mega Hydrate, and a product called Crystal Energy. I had to actually give up all my other inventions and focus on just a few of them, because if I tried to get all 300 out, I would never be able to do it.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what's the Crystal Energy about?
Crystal Energy, Dr. Henri Coanda, who I worked with at the Pentagon think tank, is called the father of fluid dynamics. And when I met him, he was 80 years old, and his girlfriend was Gloria Swanson, and the actress. And they were at the Pentagon, and every day Gloria Swanson and Coanda would take me out to lunch with them. And one day, after his 80th birthday, actually 78th birthday anyway, close enough to 80, after his birthday, he said, "Patrick, you remind me so much of myself when I was your age," that he said, "I've been researching water for 60 years, and I want to give you the results of my research, because I think you're going to come out with water like water from Hunzaland, and it can heal everyone on Earth." So he gave me all of his research on water, and so I went ahead and continued his research, and let's see, about 12 years later, I came up with the secret of Hunza water, and it was these minerals called Crystal Energy, and when you add them to water, it makes the rheology of the water, that is the flow characteristics and the wetting capabilities, to be like the natural bodily fluids in the body. Because you take regular tap water and you drink it, your body has to go through all kinds of shenanigans in order to convert tap water into biological water.
Mm-hmm. Right, it's kind of like dead water, isn't it? Tap water?
Yeah, dead water, right. Well, no water is alive, but basically there is no such thing as living water unless you want to count water with negative hydrogen ions that we get from living juices from plants. But the Crystal Energy, you add it to water, and it changes the water so that it's identical to the water in the body, and that is living water, because it's been converted into living fluid.
Right. That's awesome. So you sell this one also on your website, right?
I do.
Excellent.
It was my first product that I put out in this kind of thing. And people were getting, personal miracles from taking Crystal Energy. But it wasn't quite there, and I kept going, what is the difference between fresh, living juices from a plant and what is there? There's some hidden molecule, and that's how I discovered the negative ionized hydrogen.
Wow, that's really amazing. And I've also heard that the chemtrails can take away a lot of our natural minerals in our body as well.
Oh my God, chemtrails are killing us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the other extinction events that's going on right now. The amount of chemicals in chemtrails are destroying everything. They're destroying our bodies, our plants, our animals, the soil. The amount of aluminum in there is giving people Alzheimer's disease.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, it's the worst thing, and they just keep doing it to us. And I think it's part of this satanic alien agenda to destroy us. They claim that they're doing it to keep the earth from overheating, and it's all utter nonsense.
I totally agree with you on that one. Well, what bothers me is that they're blocking the beautiful sun. And of course, I mean, I'm a light being, so I absorb a lot of that energy from the sun just to rebuild at the cellular level.
We all do. Sun does not ever give anyone cancer. That is total nonsense. People coat their skin with chemicals, and then the sun rays react with those chemicals and create cancer-causing chemicals, which then gives skin cancer. But if you go out in the sun and sunbathe naturally, but then, we'll talk about that in a second, but basically if you go out and sunbathe naturally, the sun normally will not harm you. But what's happening is that the Earth's magnetic field is shifting, and there's something called the South Atlantic magnetic anomaly, and some of the things they're doing with HAARP and so forth have created a hole in the Earth's shield. And what's happening is that cosmic rays and sun rays are penetrating, and there are people who have sunbathed down in Bolivia. There was one lady who was at a beautiful hotel in Bolivia, and she went out and laid in the sun for half an hour, and she died of radiation burns over her whole body. She had third-degree radiation burns in her whole body from half an hour in that sunlight because the filters are gone due to what we've been doing to the Earth.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, that's very disturbing. Well, yeah, I'm a firm believer that the chemtrails are destroying, and in fact, I'm pretty sure they're trying to. It looks like to me like they're trying to terraform the planet. It just seems that way, But I see the trees dying.
They're trying to terraform it against humans, so that reptilian aliens can live here because it doesn't bother them at all.
Well, there's definitely. There's some morphing going on without a doubt here. Now, you touched a little bit on the pole shift, or not necessarily the pole shift, but what's going on with our magnetic field? Obviously, it's weakening. Do you see a magnetic field collapse?
Well, what's happening is that it's shifting. There are holes in the magnetic field forming. These are not ozone holes. They're holes in the upper atmosphere that prevent and absorb cosmic rays that are harmful to the body and rays from the sun. It's like we no longer have the magnetic shield in certain areas, and that is the South Atlantic anomaly, and it's right over Brazil, and the Brazilian government has stopped all information because of the Olympics and all this stuff.
Oh, that's terrible. My goodness. Oh, dear. So I guess on the timeline we're living right now, I mean, obviously we have the potential to turn it around, but you kind of see us more going in the opposite direction?
We've missed so many points that we either need ET or divine intervention to save us. And one of those things is that some of the good ETs are sitting out there going, if these humans would only do something to help themselves, then we could help them. Right. But they're all a bunch of zombies, and people need to wake up and see what's going on. But these dark forces are losing their power very rapidly, and they're fighting like crazy to get them back. And they're fighting a losing battle. I think there is a possibility that humanity will be snatched from the jaws of death at the last moment, in the last second, that we will be saved. I can only keep that as a hope that we're going to make it, because we have to make it.
I agree. Well, I believe that we're worth more than just going extinct. I mean, there are a lot of beings here who are wonderful, wonderful people and souls, and I don't want to see everybody just go, extinct because of an agenda. That's horrible. But I do, and I am very, very concerned, and I've been monitoring as well and watching it all kind of fall apart. Now you talked about a prison planet a little bit, and insofar as a frequency fence goes, with all your technological advancement and all your knowledge, don't you think that frequency fence can be disabled, and that limiting frequency, whatever it is, we can punch a hole through that?
Everything we're looking at, everything we see is an illusion created by a holographic frequency field, and no. If enough people become consciously aware of it, it can be collapsed. Okay. But we're going to do it, and we have to do it, and humanity can save itself.
I agree. What do you think has created that holographic field? I mean, is that a natural formula in the universe? No. Okay. No,
this is the Earth was made into a prison planet. And we die and reincarnated into prison, unable to escape the energy fields that surround the Earth. And there are multiple levels of domains after you die that you go into where you think you're going to God, and actually what you're doing is going into the system to be reborn again into the prison. And this is alien agenda.
I call it a false
hundreds of thousands of years old.
Right. Do you think the moon has anything insofar as creating that holographic field? Is it generating anything from the moon to create that field?
The moon was chosen to control us.
Okay.
Absolutely. The moon is not natural.
Right.
And it's part of the control mechanism. The moon has to go away, and I don't know how to do that, but that would take literally off-planet beings who are looking at humanity, going, "Come on, humanity! We can help you, but we can't help you if you don't wake up."
Right, exactly. And we're getting ready to wrap this up pretty soon here. I guess we have maybe 2 minutes plus or minus. Patrick, I want to thank you so much for being on tonight. It's been such an honor to have you.
It's been an honor being on your show.
Oh, my goodness. I'm just like amazed at you, and I just adore you and love you, and I'm just like, I got to have you back. So please come back when you can. Of course, we're not finished yet, but I just wanted to thank you very much. And once again, if people want to contact you, let everybody know what your website is.
It's www.phisciences.com, spelled P-H-I, Peter Hotel India, phisciences.com.
Excellent. Very good. So they can get in touch with you, buy your wonderful products as well. That's really good. And also we have a researcher on a mission coming up next with Dr. J, so stay tuned for that on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Now, we were talking a little bit about, I think we're just about out of time here, but I just wanted to cover real quick, the divine intervention. Is it possible that these other races cannot access or get in here to assist us because of the grid, because there's something that's keeping them at bay in frequency?
Yes, and the grid is beginning to collapse. We're very dicey right now, and but again, these good people can't help if we don't show that we're worthy of being helped. And no.
Take the initiative and start moving on a higher level. Well, I certainly agree. And thank you, everybody. We're about out of time. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Keith. And